woke up this morning, got out my bed, I looked around, here's what I said. Thank you, Lord, for the blood you shed. You put a roof up over my head. Thank you, Lord, for another day. All those blessings you sent my way. I should have been dead, sleeping in my grave, but you told death to get back and behave. Ooh wee, another blessing. Ooh wee, another blessing. Ooh wee, another blessing. Ooh wee, another blessing. Oh, never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging for bread. I can count on God, He won't let me down. He's always doing just what He said now. Pain is suffering, He brought me through. Arms open wide, I always welcome you. I've been blessed in so many ways. I just lift my hand and give Him all the praise. Ooh, another blessing. Ooh, another blessing. Ooh, another blessing. Ooh, another blessing. I got my legs and I can walk. I got my tongue, y'all, and I can talk. Even the air that I receive, I got my lungs, y'all, and I can breathe. I look around and I can see all of the blessings, y'all, He's given me. I see my family all doing fine. He gave me peace, gave me a peace of mind. Oh, thank God for my blessings. Thank God for my blessings. I gotta thank Him for my blessings. He woke me up early this morning. I was close in my right mind. I gotta thank Him. I gotta thank Him. He's been good to me. 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 Oh, yes, He has. Ooh, wee, another blessing. I remember one night, do it again. I remember one night, I was sitting in my home. My family was already asleep as my mind began to roam. I started to reminisce about where God has brought me from. Thought about how good He's been to me, even when I was doing wrong. And I said, Lord,
You don't do nothing else.
mm,
Just let
was watching the news. I saw people dying everywhere. Some starving to death. They didn't have no food. So what gives me the right to complain about anything? Even when I thought time would tell her, God always blessed me with more than enough. If you don't do nothing else, just let me humble myself. I wanna take a moment out and take this moment out just to say thank you and give my life. To live this day. Oh, and not another blessing come my way. Oh, all I need is one breath, y'all. Just to say thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for life. Lord, thank you for health. Thank you for peace. And the promises you kept for family and friends. My friends. For shelter and food. I am so grateful. Yes, I am. It's really been good. One more time. Thank you for life. Lord, thank you for health. Thank you for peace. And the promises you kept for family and friends. My friends. For shelter and food. I am so grateful. Yes, I am. It's really been good. If you don't do nothing else, just let me humble myself. I wanna take a moment out and take this moment out just to say thank you and give my life. My life should end this day. Oh, and not another blessing come my way. Oh, all I need is one breath, y'all. Just to say thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for life. Lord, thank you for health. Yeah. Thank you for peace. And the promises you kept for family and friends. My friends. For shelter and food. I am so grateful. Yes, I am. It's really been good. I know that what you're going. It seems a little rough right now. And I know the smile on your face has been turned upside down. It never feels good when you're going through, but you can rest assured that His word is always true. See, it's not over until God gets through. See, there's no secret to what God can do. So, my God will turn it around. Turn it around. You with me, say yes. Yes. Say yes. Say yes. Oh, yeah. Now I know
sooner or later, he's going to turn it around. It may not have been when we wanted or wished it would come, but sooner or later, he's going to turn it around. And people, you know what? You and I, we must believe that. We'll give praise unto our God, recognition to Reverend Williams and to each of you that are here. We thank God for this another opportunity that God has afforded us, and we thank God for each of you, and certainly we want to acknowledge all of our brothers and those that are in the role of fathers or play that role. We want to acknowledge you and thank you for all that you have done and will do. Because people, you know what, maybe society don't look at us the way they look at mothers, but we play a just as important role in the rearing of a child as a mother. Amen. If you want a balanced child, you let the mother and the father be involved in that child's life. And certainly we're thankful. So we want to acknowledge you. Maybe you didn't get the flowers that the mothers did, so I'm going to give you your flowers. And in a way that, let me use a term that we're familiar with now. I'm going to give you your flowers virtually. Maybe it's not a real flower, but I'm going to give it to you virtually, you know. So we're thankful. And I want you all to be prayerful with and for Reverend Stanley. He lost his sister on yesterday morning. And so everything is yet pending. I hadn't talked to him on today. So we're praying for Reverend Michael Stanley and the Stanley family on the loss of his sister. So soon as we get any information, we will relay that information. And until we get the information, what we can do is pray for them. We can lift them up. And you know what? It's them today. It's been others in the past. And people, you know what? When one hurt, all hurts. So we're thankful for that. So we're not going to prolong the time. We're going to try to challenge you. And thank you, Sister Monica. You know, for those that know me, there's a lot of things maybe I may be decent at. There's a few things that I'm good at, but there was one thing I always wished that I was better at, and that was singing. And you know what? At my best, I was a background singer. At my best. And when I say background, I don't mean on the first row of the back. I need to be on the back. You know, whether, you know, so when they come to that sooner or later, you know what? I always wanted, Sister Henry, I always wanted to be that background, that baritone. Sooner or later. I mean, you know, I know I couldn't, so I would practice at home and never got any better. I didn't get mad at nobody. I just didn't have that skill. I just didn't have that talent. But I enjoy good singing. I enjoy good singing. I know it when I hear it. And you know what? She says, sooner or later, he's going to turn it around. And for that, I am grateful. I want you to go with me this morning to the book of John, chapter 6. And we want to read in your hearing verses 15 through 21. 15 through 21. All right. Verse 15 says, when Jesus therefore perceived that they would come and take him by force to make him a king, he departed again into a mountain himself alone. And when evening was come, his disciples went down unto the sea, and into a ship, and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them. And the sea arose by reason of great wind that blew. So when they had rowed about 25 or 30 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea, drawing nigh unto the ship, and they were afraid. But he said to them, it is I, be not afraid. When they willingly received him unto the ship, and immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. And I want to talk about the things we need to learn from our storm. The things that we need to learn from our storm. Now, notice that I didn't say the things you need to learn if a storm comes. But we need to learn from the storm that's going to show up in our life. And if you are a child of God, if you are anywhere above 20 years old, you've discovered that in this life, storms is everywhere. Either you just left the storm, you're headed toward a storm, or you are in a storm right now. Now, I know it's been perceived, it's been talked about, and normally when we talk about storms in our life, we normally look at the negative. It's a storm in my life. I'm going through something. I'm hurting. I have some difficulty. But sometimes there are storms in our life to make us better. And people, let me help you out. And so therefore, when a storm comes in our life, don't look for the negative. Let's learn the lessons. That learns the lesson. And when you look at this text, I want you all to also read the other synoptic gospel that give this account about Jesus walking on the water, because it gives a little more enlightenment on some of the verses about what they thought and what Jesus did. But in John's account, and notice something, people, it was right after Jesus had fed the 5,000. And you know what? Jesus' reputation was on top of the world. He had fed anywhere from 15 to 25,000 people with 2 fish and 5 barley loaves. He was on top of the world, and people was at ease in Zion. You know what? They was full of fish and chips. They were laying back saying, now, you know what? This could be our man, y'all. This could be our man. You know what? We ought to gather and make him our king. We ought to make him our king. And you know what? We want to worry about anything material for the rest of our life. And Jesus perceived that that was the attitude of the people. And notice what he did in this. And it's interesting to note that in this, now notice when he did the 5,000, he told the children, he told the disciples, you all sit the people down. You all divide the men in 50s and 100. You all, you know what, serve the people. But when it came to this, it says, if you read the other account, that Jesus told his disciples, you all get in the ship and go on the other side. And Jesus told the crowd to go away. You say, Reverend, why is that important? Because it's something here. It's something here. Because they was wanting to make Jesus. Rome was impressing stronghold on the Jews at that time. And you no doubt, the disciples as well as the other people wanted a king. And Jesus said, I didn't come to be the king. And people, let me help you right now. Jesus didn't come to be the king then. He's not the king right now. But he is the Savior. We got to accept who Jesus, what he is right now. He's going to be the King of kings and the Lord of lords. He is going to set up his kingdom, but his kingdom is not right now. So therefore he said, now I'll tell you what, y'all get in the ship, and y'all get in the ship, and I want y'all to go on the other side. And that's important, y'all, because see, sometimes you can be in the will of God and a storm show up in your life. They were doing what Jesus told them. They got in the ship, they were going on the other side. And sometimes, people, when you are in the will of God and you follow in the directions of God, a storm is still going to show up in your life. And notice here, notice what he did. He says when they went down, they got in the ship. And notice if you read the text, it says it got dark. So the first thing, well, let me back up. Let me back up. Let me. Sometimes you got to go to the end to figure out the beginning. Now, and the first point I want to bring out about the lessons we ought to learn from our storms is, notice in verse 21, he says, and they willingly received him into the ship. And immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. Sometimes Jesus uses a storm as our transportation. Jesus trying to get us from point A to B. And sometimes Jesus will use us a storm to get us there. Now, you know what? Sometimes Jesus will transport us by way of a storm. You know what? Because sometimes we'll lollygag. Sometimes, you know what? We'll get off course. Sometimes, you know what? We'll lose our focus. But Jesus used a storm to get his disciples from one side of the sea to the other. And people, let me help you out. Jesus haven't changed his methodology. Sometimes you're in a storm right now, and Jesus is trying to get you from point A to point B, and we're crying and we're complaining. It's dark, it's damp, it's dreary, it's raining, and we're complaining. And God is saying, I'm just trying to get you to the other side. I'm just trying to get you to the other side. Because notice, when they got in there, he told them to go. He said, but when Jesus got in the boat, they were already there. I dare you to ride this storm out. I dare you to ride this storm out. Because if you ride your storm out, you're going to be exactly where Jesus wants you. And you know what? And if you ride the storm out, you don't start thinking about what you're going through. You just immediately there. But that's one of the things we normally don't lift up out of this text is that sometimes Jesus used a storm as our transportation. He used a storm as our transportation. But also the thing they lift up out of this text, not only is the transportation, but there is some testing. Sometimes Jesus was testing their faith. Now notice he said, Jesus in the boat, and Jesus wasn't with them. Jesus wasn't with them. You know what? Jesus had just fed the 5,000. You know what? They had the evidence. They still, people, let me help you out. And it's not talked about, but it is there. People, they had the 12 baskets full of food on the boat. They had evidence that Jesus had power over nature, that Jesus had power over all things. They had the baskets of food on the boat, and when the storm started raging, they got afraid. People, I dare you to look around your house and look for discover the power of God. God has blessed somebody in your family. God has given us a job when we didn't even deserve that job. You know what? God gave us health when the doctor said we shouldn't be healthy. You know what? I dare you to look around. Look around in the boat that you're riding. Look around in the vehicle that you're riding. And look for the evidence that God has already blessed. Because it says at the end of this storm, they had forgot about the fish and the loaves. I dare you people, you know what? To look back where God has already brought us from. And you know what? If we ride this storm out, COVID-19, you know what? Racial discouragement or whatever, if we'll just ride it out. Sometimes God gonna use a storm to get us where we are. But sometimes, you know what? He's doing it to test our faith. Notice he said, now notice when Jesus is not around, it's dark. They were alone, and Jesus wasn't there. And people, you know what? That's a recipe for disaster. It was dark. They were alone, and Jesus wasn't there. But see, the problem is, John don't bring it out, but I dare you to read behind Matthew. I dare you to read behind the other synoptic gospels. It says that Jesus was in the mountain praying. But there is a verse, it says, and Jesus was watching them. People, let me help you. Don't ever think that Jesus sent us in a boat, on a storm, on a river, and Jesus is not watching us. And see, sometimes we need to discover that we can do it on our own if God tells us we can do it. But if Jesus is always in the boat with us, we'll never find out if we can do it on our own. See, sometimes, you know what? God has to test our faith. He has to test our faith. And notice he says, but also there's a testing, there's a test. But notice when test time came, they became afraid. And all I'm saying, people, I want us to be respectful of COVID-19. I want us to be cautious about COVID-19, but we can't be afraid, y'all. We can't be afraid. We can't be afraid. Why? Because our God sits high and he controls everything. I want us to be respectful of COVID-19. You know what? I want us to be cautious of COVID-19, but we can't be afraid. We can't be afraid. We can't be afraid that, you know what? Pray to your God. If you don't know what's happening, pray to your God. God, turn the light on, Lord, that I might see. Help me go through this situation. Because let me help y'all. COVID-19 is a storm, y'all. It is a storm. It's a storm like this world has never seen. You know what? And notice he said, and the wind was contrary. And they were on the boat, and Jesus wasn't on the boat with them. But I dare you to get on the boat if Jesus tell you to get on the boat. And if Jesus tell you can go to the other side, people, you know what? You might have to ride some winds and some waves, but we're going to the other side. But you know what? There's one thing that they don't give the disciples credit for in this text, in this scenario. That was transportation. You know what? There was some testing, but there was also some toil. He said, you know what? They toiled all night long. He said they rode about 25 or 34 furlongs. And you know what? But see, the problem was, or the benefit was, they didn't stop toiling. You can't stop working. See, you got to keep rowing. You say, Lord, my arm tired, but you got to keep rowing. You know, I'm tired of the mask. You know what? You got to keep rowing. You know what? I'm tired of losing jobs, but you got to keep rowing, y'all. I'm tired of, you know what, the social distance, but you got to keep rowing. You know why? Because if you keep rowing, then God will come and see about you. See, God wants to see how far we will, God. God wants to see, you know, when this storm is at its peak, will we keep rowing? Will we keep praying? Because let me help y'all. You know what? Some folk that was praying about 10 weeks ago, they ain't praying no more. Yes, sir. See, you gotta keep rowing, y'all. Y'all gotta keep rowing. You say, but look like we ain't going nowhere. Just keep rowing. Just watch. Because God is watching. He said, and in the fourth watch of the night, between 3, when the night is at its dark, it said Jesus, and people, you know what? He was walking on the water. He was walking on the water. And people, and John don't talk about Peter, but notice something. People, we need to point this out. Not only was Jesus walking on the water, Jesus was walking on that stone. See, let me help you out. If Jesus can walk on your stone, and you let Jesus on the boat of your storm, people, what's going to happen to your storm? He said, and about the fourth watch, and Jesus watched them all night long. And they were steady toiling, they wasn't getting nowhere. You know what? They go a few furlongs this way, and then the wind will blow them back that way. Have y'all ever been there? It seems like, you know what, you take 2 steps forward and your circumstances blow you 3 steps back, and you say, Lord, I want to give up, Lord, I want to stop. And God said, just keep rolling. Just keep rolling. You say, well, Mount Grove, you know what, I don't understand. Just keep rolling, y'all. Just keep rolling. You know, it might not be, see, you say, well, Reverend, why hadn't God delivered? It might not be the 4th watch of the night. You know what? We just might be in watch number 2. We might be in watch number 3. But if we get to watch number 4, see, you know what? Before daylight, God is going to come by and he's going to see about us. And see, we need to learn that about our storm. See, you know what? God allowed the storm to come because they were in the boat. And one of the reasons he put them in the boat is because he didn't want them acting like the multitude. It wasn't time for Jesus to be king. He came to be Savior. See, we want God as our sugar dad. It was amazing. It was amazing that at work this week, we was pointing out this man that right around the corner from the job. He would stand on the corner, and sometimes they say, you know what, we will work for food. Or sometimes you'll say, I just need a drink. But this man had a sign. He had a sign. He said, looking for a sugar mama. Looking for a sugar mama. That's to the point. He said what he wanted. I mean, if you ain't willing to be no sugar mom, you need not apply. Don't stop. Don't holler at him. Don't cuss at him. He was looking for what he was looking for. And people, I dare you to be succinct in what you asked in God for. People, if you want God to be a deliverer, ask God to deliver you. If you want God to be a time in the help of trouble, ask God to help you. But you know what? But you got to keep toiling. You got to keep toiling. Even through the testing, you got to keep toiling. And at the end, and especially I like Matthew's account of when you get to the end of this situation, he said when Jesus got in the boat, he said, and the wind ceased. When Jesus can walk on our storm. And you know what? And Peter brings that out. Notice Peter said, Jesus, if it is you, and since it is you, bid me to come. And he said, come on. Ain't but 2 men ever walked on water. And you know what? And one of them was flesh like you and me. Now, both of them was flesh, but I said one was flesh like you and me. He had a sin nature. But the problem was he started looking at circumstances rather than the Savior. And I dare you, people, if you take your eyes off Jesus, you know what? Then we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem. Even in the midst of the storm, if you take your eye off the one that can walk on our storms, you and I are going to have a problem. But notice when Jesus got in the boat, he said them same disciples, they looked and they started to worship him. People, let me help you out. When God allows us to survive a storm, our testimony ought to get greater. Yeah. Our testimony ought to be great. Every time God delivers from a storm, our testimony ought to get heightened. You know, we ought to have more. We ought to add another verse to our testimony. This is what the Lord has done. Let me tell you what the Lord will do. Let me show you what the Lord has done for me. Our testimony ought to get greater. Why? Because you know what? We still are riding our storm. God is still walking on our storm. And people, let me help you out. God is walking on storm right now. There's some that asked the Lord to do something, and he hadn't delivered you from the storm, but you know, he just started walking on the storm. And God is saying, if I can walk on it, I can allow you to walk on it. And people, let me help you out. And he said, when Jesus got in the boat. But notice also that synoptic said, but he would have passed them by. People, sometimes if you don't invite Jesus in, he'll just pass you by. People, even in this situation that we're going through, we got to invite Jesus in. We invite everybody else, but we ain't invite Jesus. Ain't nobody saying, well, let's ask Jesus what he said. Ain't nobody saying, you know what, let's see what the Lord is saying, what the Lord is directing to do. But if you invite him in your boat, he's already walking on our storm. He's already showing us that, you know what, regardless of where the disease is, what the upheaval is, he said, I can protect you. So if I can walk on your storm, invite me into your boat. He said, but when they got in the boat, they were already where they needed to be. He said, and the wind stopped blowing. And when the wind stopped blowing, the water stopped rolling. And people, let me help you out. See, you know, it ain't like it was raining on them. It was just the wind blowing the water. See, sometimes people, you know what? When you're looking at a